Good morning, dreamers, and welcome back to Behind Your Eyes. We're your hosts, Shana
and Holiday G, and we're here to read, dissect, and give you our totally qualified. We actually have no idea what we're doing. Dream analysis.
If you would like to have your dreams or nightmares dissected by two terribly unqualified plebeians, send us an email at by.dreamcast@gmail.com. That's bye.dreamcast, DREAMCAST @gmail.com.
So this is what I'm really excited about for this, because dreams, to me, I suppose before we start, let's just have a quick thing. Dreams are such a fascinating thing to me because it's subconscious and it's a complete loss of control of thought. And as human beings, and certainly as in England, and I know that other westernized cultures, we're taught to control our thoughts, our feelings, our emotions, our actions. Whereas dreams, you have no control or restraints. And as I said to you earlier, Shana, it's almost like a wave brushing up against the shore of thoughts. And they fascinate me.
Yeah. And I mean, science as we know it doesn't fully understand what dreams are or why they happen or why we have them. And there's all these different theories about what could be the reason. Is it a memory dump? Is it, us reaching into our inner subconscious? What is it? We don't exactly know. So I think that that's one of the really fascinating things about it. It's so mysterious.
They've got to have some sort of meaning, though, haven't they? They really do. I strongly believe that they aren't random misfirings of. I know some people I've heard say that they're almost like when the librarian is putting the books away at the end of the evening. But I think they've got to have some meaning. But what really does annoy me is when people try to interpret them literally. Like they say, "Oh, I dreamt of a donkey," and someone goes, "Oh, if you dreamt of a donkey, that means you're going to be pulling a heavy weight." It's like, I don't believe the brain works that way. And I certainly know I don't work that way. So this is why I think us breaking them down as completely two unqualified plebeians and me from a completely uneducated, ignorant British man, and you from an educated, American cousin of mine. I think we're going to have some unique thoughts on dreams.
Yes. I think it'll be really interesting too, because we both have lots of experiences in different cultures. And when it comes to cultural aspects too, that has a huge play on dreams and what different things in a dream might be interpreted as. So.
Yeah, exactly. I've always been fascinated because I don't dream in a language.
Really?
I dream in a thought.
Okay,
So I never in a dream and I saying stuff to people. There is conversation and there's dialogue, but it's not a verbal dialogue, if that makes sense.
I think I've had both, because I've definitely had dreams where like I'm speaking English or I'm speaking Japanese or I'm speaking Spanish, or sometimes I'm speaking languages with people that I don't even know what the heck I'm speaking, but there's an understanding there. And then I've had dreams where it's kind of the way you're describing, where it's almost in a way like a telekinesis kind of thing, where you're just communicating with somebody without that verbal dialogue.
It's a primal way of communicating, but don't get me wrong, there is conversation, but at no stage in any dream can I ever remember there actually being spoken words.
It's
like
interesting
we're doing
that
now.
That's consistent for you that way. That's very interesting.
Yeah.
I wonder,
so
there's different discussions that I've heard about people where when you close your eyes and you think of like an apple and you picture it, how clear that image is for you, that kind of aspect transferred into dreaming. I wonder if there's like some sort of connection there for you. So like, how visual are you? Like if you close your eyes and you think of an apple, do you actually picture like a big juicy red apple, or is it just like the thought of like, oh, it's an apple, I know what an apple looks like?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think I've ever used that idea before. I am a very visual person. And I do embellish visually. So I would never picture an apple. That apple would then be on a bowl with bananas and raspberries and stuff like that. It adds to it. But I don't know. My dreams are very, very visual dreams. And as I know, if I have 100 dreams, 99 of them will be nightmares. Yes. I do suffer from really vivid nightmares, really, really vivid nightmares. But some people say to me, oh, that must be horrible. But you learn to accept these things. I feel like
you get used to it. You get used to it. Yeah.
Yeah. And some are horrifically bad and some are just nightmares. But you do. And I would go as far to say that I find comfort in a nightmare because I know it's a dream.
Yeah, and I kind of know what to expect most of the time too, because it's like, same formula that I've had for the past 31 years. So.
yeah. So it's incredible, isn't it? So that's why we want our viewers, our dreamers, to send us in their dreams for us to talk about and break down, because I think dreams is it's almost like that wild west, the undiscovered country, the last gold rush, and it is a way of communicating that is beyond race, religion, sexual orientation, gender, anything like that. It is just pure, and that's why I think that this is going to be great when we're talking to people about their dreams and building on them.
Yeah, I'm super excited about it. We're really looking forward to you guys' emails and being able to read through them and give you our ideas. So
so we've got some dreams already lined up.
Yes.
The one I've got lined up is one of my dreams. Okay. And I don't know, did you want me to go first, or did you want to go first, or?
You can go first if you'd like. I have one of my dreams, and I also found a few other dreams from Reddit for us to read and interpret. So if you want to go first.
Well, let's go first with mine, and then we'll see where we get from it. We'll see. Yeah. So this is a dream. I've only ever had it once, but it's one of those dreams that burns a hole in your visual memory, almost like a photographic slide being exposed to the sun, and it's there. And the dream is that I'm in a certain part of the country that I live in, and I'm walking down the road, and the road I'm walking on is a road I used to walk on, and it has council buildings on it. So where the council manages the roads and all the council stuff.
Okay.
I get to the council building, and outside the council building is this man that stops me. And he's an official looking man, and he stops me and he says, do you need a job? And I say, yes, I need a job. Okay. And he says, okay, I've got the perfect job for you, but it's a very responsible job. Are you up for it? Yeah, go for it. I'm up for this job. And with that, he gives me a jacket, but one of those jackets with, I don't know what they're called, but the things on the shoulders. Yes. Yeah. Almost like an army jacket, a security guard jacket, or something like that. He gives me one of those. It's really fancy. And he gives me a really fancy hat. A really, really fancy hat, and says, okay, you have to wear this at all times. I'm a little bit eccentric, so I enjoy that sort of thing. So I'm like, I'm wearing it. And then he walks me. Yeah, I'm excited. And if I had to wear, well, you can tell from my clothes now, I'm like a little bit eccentric. But he walks me to this room, and he says, okay, your job is this. Okay. And he says, look above you. And I look above, and above me, I can just see legs flying in the air like this.
Like human legs?
And he says, human legs. They're just human legs floating about. And he says, right, what you need to do is you need to stand here and wait. And when one of these sets of legs comes down, then it becomes clear that it's a body. When the body comes down and the person comes down, you have to push them back up. And I go, okay, I can do that. And this is where the dream finishes, and it finishes abruptly with this twist, where I then say, okay, so what actually is the job? And he says, you work at the bottom of a swimming pool, and you are stopping the disabled people from drowning.
Interesting.
And that is the dream. it's weird. It's really weird. It's literally, I don't know that I'm at the bottom of the swimming pool till right at the end. And then it all dawns on me. These are people that are sinking and I'm having to save them by pushing them back up. And it's obviously some official service that we offer here in the United Kingdom.
This is a job that you can actually apply for. There will be a link in the description. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, it's just bizarre, but it's totally that dream logic, because when I go into the room, no water rushes out. I open the door for the room, I stroll in, I'm perfectly fine. I just stand there and wait for a set of legs to come down and I push them back up. And that's it. That's all I do all day in my job.
Okay. So this feels kind of straightforward for me, if I'm being honest with you. Like there could be small symbolism hidden within, but I feel like this is representative of how you feel in your life and how you feel about your position in society and with the people around you. Like your job is to, not necessarily disabled people in particular, but people who are in your life who need help in some way. Do you feel like it's your job to help lift them up and help them survive and help bring them along and, you know, be successful in some way?
See, I've never thought of it like that in terms of an interpretation before. I've always thought of it just literally that your life does have a purpose, no matter how insignificant it might seem. Yeah. You might be just a person that presses one button all day long, but you have a purpose. And that's the way I see it, that my purpose might be insignificant to some, and you might not even know that I'm there.
You might not even know what you're doing.
I'm doing something. yeah, I don't even know what I'm doing. But yeah, it's is it one of those ones where I'm thinking, you know, maybe I do have a purpose, or is it like you suggest that maybe I'm thinking, I'm there as a support structure for people around me, so to speak.
Why couldn't it be both, though?
I suppose it could be both, but why do I have to wear the fancy hat?
Because you're eccentric and you're fancy.
It's probably that. I only believe I could do a fancy job if I have a fancy hat.
Exactly. If you don't have a fancy hat, are you doing your job correctly? No.
I think in England we all want a hat, don't we? We all need a hat. That's probably why I always wear headbands, because I just feel I need to have something. Yeah, but why is it disabled people? It's not like it's not abstractly, are they disabled, blah blah. It is quite clearly that this job is disabled people. So does that mean that maybe I feel myself as, and take this as whatever, as different to others, in that I can help where they have limitations?
That would make sense to me. Yeah, that would make a lot of sense to me, honestly.
Yeah, it's a weird one, isn't it? I've told a few people that dream.
Knowing you and knowing your personality too, like that just makes sense, because you are such like a kind and loving and helpful and uplifting human. And I've seen you be that way with everybody that I've ever seen you interact with, whether it's, you know, on a podcast or just through Twitter or whatever it is. That's just who you are. So it would make sense to me.
Yeah. And it just but doesn't this is why dreams are brilliant. And then it interprets it in my brain that I work at the bottom of the swimming pool. It's like, how awesome is a dream?
It's pretty freaking cool, honestly. Like, but there was no water, so like, is there water?
No, there's no water.
Is it a lie?
There's absolutely no water whatsoever. and in fact, from my point of view, these people are flying. Whereas from their point of view, these people are drowning.
Yeah, that could be a whole nother perspective too. Like the whole, and kind of an outlook on society where people, you know, in your own life and where you are, you feel like maybe you're not being successful and you're drowning and you're not doing well. But then other people might look at you and be like, wow, that person, they've really done all these things and they're so successful and they're like flying, you know. So that could be a whole different interpretation there in itself.
And that is, I have always felt that. I've always felt that I've failed and not succeeded. So yeah, thank you for just enforcing that upon me.
Welcome to our therapy session.
I'm a failure.
Well, let's work through this. What makes you feel that? No.
Just give me a hat and I'm successful.
That's the thing that's missing. All right, now we know. I'm gonna make you a paper hat and I'll send it to you. It'll be really beautiful.
Yes. Yeah. So go for it like that. And I'm just, yeah. So yeah, if you guys have any interpretation of what I might be thinking or what my dream might be doing, please let us know.
Yes,
because I believe in the power of communicative thinking. I think when someone just thinks things through and says, right, there's one way and it's my way and that's it. And that singular line of action, I think, is of detriment to the human race. So I do believe in communicative thinking and thought processing and acceptance of ideas. So I'd love to hear people's ideas about what me working in the bottom of a swimming pool pushing people up means.
Me too. Yeah. So if you're watching this on YouTube, leave it in a comment. If you're not on YouTube, if you're listening to us on, what is it, Apple Podcasts or Spotify or whatever,
wherever,
send us an email. Send us an email. We would love to hear it. That's awesome.
Right, let's move on to the next dream. So, Shana, is this going to be your dream, or is it one of the ones you've got for us?
Let's start with mine. Why not?
Yeah, let's do it. Let's do it.
So I have a date for this one as well. This was April 27th, 2019. I was asleep meditating last night and slept until 4:33 a.m. The last dream I remember, I was basically kidnapped. I was being forced to live in this giant house that also had other people who were kidnapped living there. We all had timelines that we were being forced to live there until they were completed. And the man running everything slept with all of the females. I wanted to get out. I wanted to leave. The man thought he had me under his control, that I loved him and that I was brainwashed. I was just good at acting. Throughout the dream, I was living my life here days and days and days. There were earthquakes. I was trying to help people, but I also needed to be careful not to get caught. At one point, I got nauseous and sick, and someone thought I might be pregnant. That really freaked me out. I found a strange way to get to another home that was connected to the one that I was in. There were also people trapped there. And although I shouldn't have been there, a person there and myself decided to make a trade for something we each needed. As I was starting to go back to my home, so I couldn't get caught, there was another big earthquake, and I woke up. And that was the end of the dream.
Now, the way my thought process works is very strange. Now, I've got two things that immediately I want to get clarification on. Okay. One,
yes.
You said you were all living a timeline, that you had to complete this timeline before you could leave.
Yes.
Were you aware of what it was?
No, we didn't know, but we were just told once we completed our timeline, then we could go. But we didn't know how long it was.
The second one is the two rooms or the two houses or whatever. How were they connected?
If I remember correctly, it was almost like there was this invisible underground tunnel that I went through to get from house to house. And everything in this dream, I remember everything was very dark. And so these houses were like, it was dark, and the wood that everything was made out of was like a really dark wood. The floors were wood, the walls were all wood. Everything was really open, but this man who was running everything, he wasn't always there. So he would go somewhere, but we couldn't get out the door. So we didn't know where he was going. It was just this house that we were stuck in this like giant room almost. And there were all these beds and it was very strange.
I think the world sexualizes things too much. And I think that too many people come to a conclusion of a sexual conclusion of things, because I think that's a primal thought. And straight away we say control, sexual control, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
I like to think beyond that a little bit, just because I like to think that we're, not that we're better than that, but that we are capable of more than that. So I wonder if that's something to do with thought, that you feel you are living a life given to you by someone else.
Okay.
And you have to fulfill this life expectation given to you by someone else. Now, although I might use names, I don't mean that it is that, but your madre, your padre, or someone like that, your brother, your sister, have had these expectations upon you, and you don't feel you can live your life until you've fulfilled these expectations.
That's that I can see that. I can see that for sure. Like I
Yeah.
definitely, I've, spent a lot of my life making decisions based on other people. So it would make sense that that would be me kind of processing that concept or idea.
Yeah, that you're trying to make someone else happy, which in terms is the way your brain relates the other people. That man's getting people pregnant, not in terms of that sexual gratification, but in terms of that fulfilling his desire to have a child. So excuse me.
No, you're fine.
So I wonder if it, because initially straight away I think people would say, oh, it's definitely a control thing. It's definitely a control thing. But I wonder if it's more a control thing from your point of view rather than his, that you're controlling where you are within this house, prison, whatever you're calling it, and you're trying to fulfill his destiny, what his expectation is, before you can then move on to the next house.
While also trying to break free from it at the same time, because the whole time I was trying to find my way out and making him think that he was in control and that he knew what was going on. But I was doing my own thing.
How many people can truly say that they don't live some form of a lie in some way, that they're doing something to fulfill or keep up an expectation that's been made of them, and that you're keep perpetuating that that thing just to keep it going? I would have thought the majority of us, be it big or small, have something that we do that isn't necessarily us, but we do it because of what is expected of us.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Especially, I think, when we are younger as well. And it's something that we kind of grow up and we learn to start making decisions for us and not so much other people. But when we're kids, you want to do things that are going to make your parents happy, and you want to do things that are going to make your grandparents happy, or whoever's in your life. You're trying to fulfill whatever their dreams are for you at some point.
And if you consider, if you look at it really deeply, you could think, what more of a prison is there than a psychological prison bound by expectation?
Absolutely.
That is, especially if you're not meeting that expectation, or the expectation is something that you're not. I've always struggled in life with expectation, because people, for some bizarre reason, have always said, "Oh, you're a clever chap." I'm like, I'm completely self-educated. I have no education whatsoever, but there's that expectation that I will be the clever one, and I find it a weight on my shoulders sometimes, because sometimes you don't want to be the clever one. You don't want to be the funny, smart one. You want to be the ignoramus that sits in the corner and shouts, "More biscuits, please." But do you know what I mean? It's the weight of expectation, and I gesticulate a lot.
No, you're fine.
I say to my children, there is no expectation. The only expectation I have upon my children is that they're happy. If they're doing something that isn't making them happy, then I want them out of that. But whatever it is they're doing, if it's making them happy, my only expectation from my children is happiness. And I think it's a very liberating way of thought. But I know I didn't come from that. There was great expectations upon me, which and I, hands up, I'll admit, I failed all my what everyone expected of me. I failed it massively, but I was true to myself. And if you kept up with your expectations of what someone thought of you, would you be you now, or would you be someone completely different?
Oh, someone completely different. Absolutely.
Yeah. Absolutely. So who? Oh, now I'm getting deep. So then, whose life are you living? Would you be living someone else's life through them, and through them dictating? You become a puppet, don't you? Of someone else's will, and just cut the strings and go for it. So I've got this saying, and I always say that if someone doesn't like me because of the way I am, I always say, well, do you know, that's not my loss. That's their loss for not getting to know me.
Right.
So I've managed to get my way around it a little bit. But I do believe that your dream is a weight of expectation guiding you to fulfill something, be it parents' expectations, even your own subliminal expectations. Something like that. And this man that is holding you captive is the weight of expectation.
That makes sense. And it applies too, because there was more than one person in my dream who he was doing this to. So it's like that weight of expectations, not just on me, it's on all these other people in my life in some way.
Yeah.
We all have
the other people could even just be different representations of your personality.
That's true too.
We all have multiple. It has this horrible connotation, multiple personalities. We all have them. We all use masks in everyday life, and it's being able to distinguish. I can't even talk. Distinguish between the different masks. So I wonder if the different people aren't different people. They are just different variations of you, maybe even at different stages of your life.
I do talk about all the time how I have like little Shanas in my head, and they're all like, they're trying to fight for control, kind of like that movie Inside Out, where it has like the feelings, but all of mine are just Shanas, and they're all like different personalities of Shana who are like, I think this, and I think this, and she should feel this way, and do this and do that. So yeah. No,
I know exactly what you mean. And I do too. But is it that film Inside Out? That's such a beautiful way of explaining it, because sometimes the voices in your head and the different voices in your head telling you to do different things, different points of view,
and feel different ways.
Yeah, I kind of sometimes looked upon suspiciously, but it does show that you should act upon your own thoughts. And there are different parts of you that know different things. But that's how powerful the brain is, isn't it? That it almost compartmentalizes these personalities to deal with different situations. It's like, do you know, like when you've got the Avengers, the superheroes, and we think, right, we've got to deal with this baddie, we need a specific hero to deal with this. Oh, let's get out Captain America. It's almost like that. Your brain goes, right, what's the problem? The problem is this. Right, bring out that version.
That's a really cool analogy. That's a really cool way to think about it, is that your brain is the Avengers and it just brings out the different superhero for whatever situation you need. I love that.
Yeah. Or even better, Pokemon. Your brain is a pile of Pokemon cards. What's that? We're up against a fire Pokemon. Bring out a water Pokemon.
There you go. I love it.
Yeah.
That's a perfect analogy.
That's what I think your dream is. It's expectation burden.
I like it. That's a perfect. I had no idea where to go with this dream, to be honest with you. I just knew that it was a weird dream, and like I never felt like that like sexual aspect that you were talking about. A lot of people would probably look at it as that's never how I felt in the dream. It was not the focus at all. That was just something that was happening. Don't you think the storyline, I think, of the dream? So.
I think that too many people just use sexuality and sexualization as a fallback for actions. And I think, what are we as human beings? We're programmed to survive and procreate.
Yeah.
That's what a species is meant to do. So that's our primal function. So I think sometimes our brain just interprets things using our primal function, but it doesn't actually mean that.
Yeah,
and I think people are too narrow-minded sometimes. It can, it certainly can.
But I don't think it's applicable in every situation the way that people necessarily think it is. So
yeah, I think too many psychiatrists and things like that straight away go, oh, that's a sexual problem. That's Freud. Blah 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 blah. It's like, Freud. Yeah, Freud. Yeah, everything is a sexual problem. It's like, does it all have to boil down to sex, Joe? Let's have some fantasy in our lives.
Yeah, definitely.
So yeah, that's why I think yours is. So,
I like it. I like your interpretation.
As we say, we are totally uneducated in this matters, so we are just guessing from our life's experience.
Yep.
So what's another one you got? So where did you get this one from?
So the next one came from Reddit, the Weird Dreams subreddit. So it says, a dream within a dream within another dream. The dream
That's Inception, isn't it?
I know, right? The dream starts out with me standing on this road where one side of the road is endless fields of grass and the other side is fields of grass that turns into sand, and the ocean is in the distance. I hear a car in the distance coming towards me, but I don't see it yet. So I step off the road and then I see the car, and it's a 1962 Oldsmobile Starfire convertible. That's a dark green with a red interior. And when it comes close to me, a man in his late 20s is looking in my direction and says, "Do you recognize me?" As soon as I heard his voice, I knew who he was. And I said, "You're my uncle, but you are much, much younger looking now." He said, "Bingo, I'm not 93 anymore, even though I would be 98 if I were still in the land of the living. My uncle died 5 years ago." Next, my uncle says, "Get in the car. I'm going to give you a tour of heaven." I get in and look at everything in the car, and it was brand new in every way, and it even had the brand new car smell. Then I start telling my uncle about what's happening in the world since he's been gone. Then I see a portal of light in the distance on the road, and my uncle's floors it. And a few moments later, the car's speedometer was maxed out at 120. But the car was still accelerating. Then we go into the portal of light. Then I wake up in my bed and it's morning. I do my morning routine and then I go outside to take a walk. And the next thing I see is my uncle's car driving down the street and turning down a street with no outlet. So I go down the street and I see a portal of light, and my uncle drives into it and disappears. Then I suddenly start running into the portal before it closed. Then I suddenly wake up again in my bed, and it's 3 a.m. Next, I hear a car's horn beeping outside my window, and it's my uncle waving goodbye. But I decided to run downstairs and outside and said, "Wait." But he went through the portal of light, and I decided to run into it before it closed back up. I was back on the road where I started, standing on that road again, and I could hear a car in the distance coming towards me. And it was my uncle. My uncle said, "They won't let me give you that tour of heaven right now, but in 38 years from now, I will give you that tour. Heaven is not what everyone thinks, but it's more than you can imagine. But in the meantime, I'll take you back home." Once in my car, my uncle floors it and the portal of light appears just before we enter it. My uncle says, "See you in 38 years. Then seconds later, I'm back home, and it's 3:03 in the morning. And then I hear a car horn beep twice outside my window. And I look outside and no one is there. After that, I hear my uncle's voice inside my head saying one of the last things he said when I last saw him days before he died. He said, "The only people who fear death have a guilty conscience and minds clear. So I don't fear death." These last words were the words I remember when he decided he wasn't going to be on dialysis anymore due to advanced age and declining health. So at that time, I asked him, "Are you afraid?" And he said, "The only people who fear death have a guilty conscience and minds clear, so I don't fear death." Then after I remembered those last words, I hear my uncle's voice again inside my head, and he says, "You shouldn't fear death either, because your conscience is clear and will remain so." After that dream and hearing my uncle's voice, I began to wonder, if I do see him again in 38 years, will that tour of heaven be a one-way trip, or will I be able to return home and tell everyone about it?
Oh, that's sad, isn't it?
It's
Do
a
you see
little.
that as sad?
I don't necessarily see it as sad, but I mean the idea of, like, obviously his uncle dying is sad, but I don't see the dream itself as being sad as much as like sort of inspirational in a way.
Do you? Oh, I don't think it's about his uncle. I don't think
No,
the
no, no,
dream is
no, not
about his uncle.
specifically. Not specifically.
I think his uncle is just the projected
Facilitator.
facilitator. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think it's about his acknowledgement of mortality and his acknowledgement of acceptance of death, brought upon by his uncle dying, and
Mm-hmm.
it's his brain accepting his own mortality.
Yeah.
Does it say how old this guy is? Because it when you're younger, you don't have that real sense of mortality, do you, to a degree?
It doesn't say how old he is now, but I'm assuming if he's saying he's coming back in 38 years, he's probably already in his 30s or 40s. If his uncle was in his 90s when he died, it would make sense. And he said it had been 5 years since his uncle died. So it would make sense if he was at minimum probably in his 40s.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking, around about middle-aged, late 30s, mid-30s, something like that.
Yeah.
Because I wonder if because that is a time of your life that you do have that acceptance of your own mortality. Mm-hmm. As younger people, we see time as something that it goes on forever. Do you know, like Joe, you think, oh, when's my birthday? It's not for another 9 months. Oh, it's ages away. But when you get to a certain age in life, you almost accept the fact that things are moving quickly and they're moving without your control.
Yeah.
Which would be the guided tour.
Yeah. That would make sense.
I don't know. What have you got? What thoughts you got?
I think that acceptance of mortality is a major part of that, but I don't know what your spiritual beliefs are just in general, but I kind of bring a little bit of spirituality into this one, because I do feel like in a way it's sort of a message that's saying, hey, like, yeah, mortality is a thing. It's something that happens, but don't worry about it, because there is something after this and you have nothing to fear about it. And it could easily be like, if you bring, you know, whatever your spiritual beliefs are into it, that his uncle really is coming and communicating with him through these dreams, and these portals that he's going through are his way of continuing to be able to communicate with him in order to keep things from being cut off in some way. But he's like, I can't bring you here to show you the actual thing, but just know that everything's going to be fine. Don't worry about it. You know? Yeah,
that almost sounds like, do you know how the old radios, the old wireless radios used to work by sending signals? Mm-hmm. It's almost like the brain is the receiver and his uncle is the transmitter, and he's transmitting these signals that is being interpreted as a dream. But oh God, if that's true, we've just broken the whole existential thing wide open there, haven't we?
Yeah.
I am very spiritual. I'm a very spiritual person. I think spirituality shouldn't be defined by what religion you follow.
Absolutely.
I think spirituality should be defined by what brings you comfort.
Right.
And I think all spirituality boils down to the same thing. It's just different interpretations of that thing. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I think you're right that there is that spirituality. But I wonder if the afterlife is almost like the breaking down the barrier of, he's understood he is going to die at some stage, but he's okay with it. He now accepts that he is going to die. Yeah. Do I believe that there's a heaven? No, I don't believe there's a heaven. I don't. Yeah. My brain doesn't work that way. But do I believe there's something afterwards? I do believe there's something afterwards. Yeah, exactly.
Same.
How futile would our existence be for it just to have finished like that? I like to think of it. What we're made of mm-hmm. carbon and atoms that formed in a dying star. Mm-hmm. So my jacket is made of the same thing that I'm made of. Yeah. Mine chose to form me, and this chose to become something that ultimately became my jacket.
Yeah.
And the very fact that me and you are talking like this means that we're not identical things. Although, take gender out of it, the human beings are identical, apart from one thing: your soul. Whether you believe your soul is an embodiment of spirituality, or you believe your soul is just a defect of the life process, whatever, there is something, and that's undeniable, that there is something that makes me and you.
Right.
So how ignorant would we be to say that the moment we die, that me is gone?
Yeah.
Well, what formed that in the first instance?
I can understand the comfort that some people have in the belief that when you die, that's it, it's done. Like, you fulfilled your purpose, there's nothing else. And I get the comfort that some people have in that. Personally, that's not comforting to me, but I can understand why some people believe that way. So
have you heard the theory that there is only you in this world, that form of humanism and belief system?
Yeah.
And yeah, so I'm in a car crash. I come to of my car crash. I've died, and there's a being in front of me says, you died. Joe, you lived a good life, but you died. And now's your time to go and inhabit that person who is also you in the earth.
Like a video game.
And everyone, like a video game, everyone on this earth is me in various stages of my consciousness.
Mm-hmm.
Once I've lived every single existence that there is on the planet, at that stage, I have spiritually matured, and I will become God of my own realm. Earth, the place where we live, is a kindergarten, and we are literally infants.
That's an interesting theory.
Every death that we have is a growth. It's like a tooth falling out of a child.
Yeah.
So I firmly believe that there is something, but I just think for this dreamer, I do find it sad, because I find it sad that he's accepting of his mortality.
Okay.
And I like to think that people who do accept their mortality have got that strength of, this is not over.
Right.
Do you know, butterfly, a caterpillar butterfly situation, do you know? That's over, that's not. But I see it that he hasn't fully accepted he accepts his belief that he's going to die and his mortality. But the reason he's interpreting it is his uncle's telling him that is because he hasn't accepted that he's in control of that.
Okay. That makes sense. I'm very curious to see what our dreamers have to say about this too, to get some feedback from everybody.
Yeah. It's one of those ones you almost need a notepad to jot it down, don't you? Right, you were in a dream at that stage, you're still in a dream at that stage. You need a timeline.
Yeah, the transition I don't feel like is quite as important as like the general message of what is being said, though. Like,
do you believe that in dreams that timelines, the time zones, ages, things like that are fairly irrelevant?
I think it might depend on the dream.
Right. Yeah, because do you ever have in my dreams, I never dream of me as a certain age. I just am. I can't remember at some stage saying I'm a child in this dream.
I have dreamed of myself at specific ages in some dreams, but in general, it's just me as I am, like not me at a specific age. But I have had dreams where it's like, oh, here's kid Shana, or here's old lady Shana. You know,
get off my lawn.
Basically. Sitting out there with my coffee, like, kids these days.
Yeah, 14 cats. You've got reading your stories.
Yep, that's me. Sounds about right. Yep.
Yeah, so I think that one's that's a little bit sad for me. I think it's an acceptance of fate, of mortality, of this just being flesh and bone, and it does have a sell by date. But I don't see it that he's fully accepted that he's in control of where he's going just yet.
Okay.
And maybe he's looking for guidance.
Okay. I like it. I like it.
Yeah.
Very good. Very good.
Yeah. We're quite good at this, aren't we?
I think we're pretty great. I mean, I think whoever is in charge of giving qualifications for dream interpretation should just issue us our certificates immediately. So.
And me a hat.
Yeah. Okay. You need a hat and I need a certificate.
Yeah, you can have certificate. Yeah, I'm not bothered about paperwork. I just want a hat with a big badge on the front, like the security guards at Walt Disney World. Just like, oh my God. Look at me.
Oh my God. I will draw you up a hat, and then in the video edit, I'll make sure to put it on for you.
I don't know about you, but I think that's the ideal length for
I think that's perfect.
3 dreams per thing.
Yeah.
3 interpretations per thing.
Yeah.
3 existential conversations.
Yeah. Yeah. I love it.
Yeah. So let's have a recap. What have we learned? We've learned that I've got a job in a swimming pool. We've learned that you can't leave your house.
And we've learned we're all going to die.
We're all going to die, yeah. So happy days, everyone. Carry on dreaming.
Oh my God. That's perfect. That's perfect. All right. Well, guys, like we were saying before, we would love to hear your interpretations. We really want to hear those dreams. So send us your emails. What was the email again? I forget. I got to look.
Buy it, something.
Dream it, say it.
I don't know what it was. Hang on a second, I'll get it for you. Bloody buttons. It was, here we go. It was
there eventually.
BYE, so buy.dreamcast@gmail.com.
There you go, guys.
But we will leave the link below.
Yes, absolutely. Send us your emails. Let us know. Give us your ideas. We look forward to hearing from you guys. And sweet
keep
dreaming. Don't let the bad dreaming.
Bye, dreamers.
Bye,
Sleep
dreamers.
tight.